Hello and welcome to my very first masterclass. Last month, we did this over kind of 5 days, and I've come up with so many more amazing ideas that I've decided to do them as some masterclasses, and we also will do some 5-day transformations. This masterclass, or we can actually call it a transformation, is what if nothing is wrong with you? This is not about consistency. It is about meaning. People don't stay stuck because life happens. They stay stuck because of the meaning they assign to what happens. So I wanted to start by saying tonight, as I was getting ready for this and making sure that, yes, everything was going well, hold on just a moment. I have not made sure that I am putting this inside of my group. So let me start again here. I apologize. We're going to go ahead and share it into the group and get started. All right, everybody, we are actually going to go ahead and start the Saturday night masterclass, What If Nothing Is Wrong With You? Because guess what? There is actually nothing wrong with you. I want to make sure this is posting live in the group. I apologize. This is my first time doing this, so I am just working everything. Okay, here we go. Now I see I am inside the group too. So let me start by saying tonight, as I was getting ready for this in the last like 10 or 15 minutes, I threw on some music. Now I am a Gen Xer, so I was a closet Eminem fan, no longer closeted, just a full-blown Eminem fan, have been for most of my life since he's been around. And the very first song that came on when I just threw on Spotify and just went to a playlist was Till I Collapse. And I had to kind of smile, because I used to play this song over and over again on Legs Day when I worked out at the gym, because I thought that the success meant you just pretty much had to push harder, you had to grind more, and never let up, which there is a time for that. However, tonight, hearing that song made me smile, not because I need to collapse anymore, but because I've learned something different. Life is going to life sometimes. And what changed my life wasn't learning how to push harder. It was learning how to stay when life interrupted me. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you just keep starting over? If you've watched any of my lives, you know that we talk about starting over and that we are all experts in starting over. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about how there is nothing wrong with you and why you do not need to start over. So there is a hidden pattern that keeps women starting over because you keep thinking something is wrong with you. Okay, so I thought I had a motivation problem, a consistency problem, and a discipline problem. That's a lot of problems to have, right? Well, I did not have any of those things. Well, maybe at times I did, but it really had to do with the story I was telling myself. And this story included, and tell me if this is you too, we talked about different things to start on Monday, starting over, the Monday loop, as I like to call it. How about those January resolutions? That sometimes we look forward to doing those January resolutions, even if they don't last much past, say, January 15th, but it's something we look forward to doing because it's a way to start over, and we think that's going to give us momentum. And maybe it does temporarily, kind of like the honeymoon phase, but it doesn't last, right? So, and then there's times where we might just be like, oh, this week doesn't count. And if it doesn't count, what does that mean? I'm going to start over on Monday or whatever your Monday is. So a real popular way to do this, which I'll be talking about as well, is procrastination. I have been a procrastinator my entire life. I will procrastinate until the last possible minute, and then I might sit down and do 3 days worth of work in half a day. If only I could do that more often, right? I could probably get a lot more done. So let me just ask again. Have you ever said, and I know you have, I know you are, I think we could all raise our hands in the room without worrying about feeling embarrassed. I'll start over again on Monday. It's okay. This might have messed up, but I'll start over again on Monday. And you know, with all of this, I honestly thought I was the problem. How about you? Have you thought when you had a motivation, a consistency, or a discipline problem, believed you were the actual problem? Yeah, it sucks. So, and I will say this, I'm sitting over here with a ton of notes and I thought I had them all in order. And then I saw it was 8:33 and realized, oh no, I need to just start. So if I'm looking around for certain things, that would be why. I'm going to take you now to slide 3. This is the one about life happening. Life is not an interruption. It's a journey. And it's hard to look at it like that because when you say life is going to life, it feels like it's an interruption, but it isn't necessarily one. So I talk about my summer has been one of those seasons where life just lives. And it's only January. I'm sorry. It's not even January. It's July 18th. So we've still got half the summer to go. Summer break and winter break are my busiest seasons for my full-time job because we work on lab equipment, usually in school chemistry and biology labs. And when our colleges and universities on break, summer and winter. So I travel a lot. I spent over 1,500 miles. I drove over 1,500 miles over the course of 7 days, driving to Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and back to Iowa a couple weeks ago. And I was in 4 different hotel rooms. And then I got home and said, whew, I got a few days. Next week, I got to go somewhere overnight, but I'll at least be home for a few days. But nope. Universe had another idea. What happened? A major windstorm, the worst one we've had since I've been here. And basically what happened is that a windstorm happened and I could not do anything because I didn't have power. Now, I could have just stopped then, but I didn't. I was lucky enough to be able to stay in my dad's RV during the night, and during the day, we had the generator, and he had the generator at night because he was busy doing stuff during the day. And then, not long after that, I flew to Oregon on a Sunday, and I got back Thursday night. And I was in for 4 nights. I was also in 4 separate hotel rooms. Flew to Oregon, rented a car, drove 200 miles to work on Monday. And then when I was done working, I had to drive 200 miles back to Portland to work on Tuesday and Wednesday. So yeah. And while I was there, my laptop decided it only liked Wi-Fi at home. It all of a sudden didn't want me to use Wi-Fi at the hotels. At the airport, I could get on for like 2 to 3 minutes, and then it was gone again. So that was not fun. It was not fun. So I just adapted. I could have decided to go ahead and start over, but I didn't want to. I did not want to have to start over. So I adapted and chose I'm only going to be able to do 1 to 2 posts a day, not 3. And I'm not going to get upset about it. I moved my weekly live, which is normally on Tuesday, to last night because of the Wi-Fi situation. So I found a way to adapt because life is going to life. It's a journey. And you just have to realize that the interruptions are going to happen no matter what. It's not perfect, and it's time for us to stop waiting for things to be perfect. I tomorrow get on another plane and fly to Kansas City so that I can drive again several days of driving and working the way, trying to figure out the best airports to fly in and out of, rental cars, all that kind of good stuff. It is what it is, right? Life is a journey. I look at it as my life is organized chaos. I may be the only one who understands it right now, but I understand it. Yours might look a little different than mine. And that is totally okay because each one of us has a different life. And life can get very messy. And I think that is what is missing a lot. We watch creators, we watch influencers, we watch people in our community or motivational speakers or coaches and so forth. And we think, pardon me, they have their life all together. And maybe right now they do, but everybody has been in that messy middle. Nobody has gone from, sorry, I've got a cat who's trying to attack a fly in the window. Anything to try to interrupt you, right? So every time you decide to stay, you collect another receipt instead of choosing to start over. So these past few weeks, especially, what they have taught me is adapt, don't abandon. So all these times when life got rough, and trust me, I wanted to quit several times. I was so frustrated with the laptop and the 3-hour time change and everything. But I just kept saying, adapt, don't abandon. Adapt, don't abandon. Okay? So let's move on. Again, the question isn't, will life happen? Because of course, life is going to happen. The question is, what story are you going to tell yourself when life happens? This is the story. The story is the meaning. So I want you to really stop and think on that. What story do you tell yourself when life happens? And we're going to go a little more deeper into this, obviously, as we get a little further along. So let me tell you about the meaning loop, which breaks the Monday loop. Okay? The meaning loop is we have an event that happens. The event is not the problem. The meaning is the problem. The meaning is what we give this event. The meaning we give it gives us an identity, because events don't determine identity. Meaning assigned to the events does. And then that affects our behavior. For example, the event, I'm traveling. And I'm super busy. I couldn't post what I wanted. I wasn't able to send a bunch of emails I wanted to send out for work. So that must mean I am failing. The story I'm telling myself about the fact that I'm traveling is that I am a failure. And that gives me an identity of I can't stay consistent. And then the behavior is I just decide to quit. Wow. That is amazing, right? Who does that? That is pretty freaking amazing. So now let's move on to the same interruption and a different story we can tell ourselves. Okay? This is really important to stop and think about. 2 different women, right? Woman A misses 3 workouts versus woman B missing 3 workouts. Woman A says, I am failing and I'm going to start over. Woman B says, I'm adapting and I'm going to keep going. That is really important to think about because I used to get home from a work trip and be like, "Ugh, I did not eat perfectly. I missed my routine. I'm just going to start over Monday." Now my doctor wants me to add exercise into with taking my GLP-1s because they've kind of started to slow down. And he's like, "Well, when you're traveling, where are you staying?" And I'm like, "At a hotel." And he's like, "Well, don't most of them have a gym?" And I'm like, yeah." He's like, "Well, let's try to get on the treadmill or the recumbent bike for 15 to 20 minutes a couple days a week to start." So I can't use an excuse anymore that I don't have access to stuff. Although there are times where my right leg, which gives me a lot of problems, could be causing a lot of issues and I'm not going to work out. But I can't use that excuse every day because that is not the problem all the time. So what we want to do when we're telling ourselves a story like that is adapt. When we're like, "Oh, I didn't eat perfectly, I missed my routine, I'll start over Monday." But instead, let's come home and ask, what is one thing I can do today? One thing, not everything, one thing. Could I take a walk? Could I maybe drink some more water today? How about unpacking my suitcase? Or maybe I'll meal prep. Or maybe I'll meal prep tomorrow. And that is adapting, not abandoning. And that's really important because when we're in the messy middle, we don't see that from a lot of people. We see how to start over, how to reset, how to build new goals that we're going to reach, change our habits, different worksheets to help us with stuff like that. And that's fine. Those are not the problem. The problem is continuing to do them over and over again and not growing and becoming more and learning that we can adapt in this situation. Pardon me, my hair is bugging me because, as you know, I normally wear it up. And tonight it's just kind of bugging me. I'm not really sure why. So I'm going to show you the cycle now. Let's move on to the cycle. So the cycle is for the Monday loop. We start, life happens, we have self-judgment, then we restart, which means we then repeat, right? Because you got start here. Obviously, you repeated right there, didn't you? Or me. I shouldn't say you. I apologize. Us. We start, life happens, self-judgment, restart, repeat. So let me ask you a question. Let me give you a minute to ponder on this as I walk away to grab my scrunchie. Let me give you a minute to ponder. Where do you usually exit? Where do you usually exit in this cycle? Or do you follow the whole cycle through all the way until the end? Which the end here is restarting. Life happens. You judge yourself. You tell yourself what you did was wrong. Oh, there we go. How many times has life happened and you have judged yourself in such a negative way and believed life happening was your fault? It wasn't. The way you judge yourself might be your fault because you gave yourself meaning, but that's okay. That's not your fault saying it's your fault in a negative, bad way. That's just saying accepting and acknowledging things that we can start seeing. And once we see it, you can't unsee it, and we can work and become better at things. So let me give you the real reason why we quit. We don't quit because of what discomfort means. You don't quit because of discomfort. I'm failing. I ruined it. This isn't working. These meanings trigger exit, not the hard moment. This is where you got to go a little bit deeper and we talk a little bit more, and where we are breaking down where we emotionally exit. When you say, let's say, for example, let's go back to the power outage. I easily could have been like, it's not working. Boom, emotionally exit. Laptop is giving me issues. I'm failing. Emotionally exit. Right? Wow. Those are pretty amazing when you just sit there and think the life event that happened and the meaning we give it and how it immediately makes us emotionally exit from the situation. Because once you've emotionally exited from whatever life event happened, you are just getting ready to start over. Just getting ready to start over. And that is where we go back to the Monday loop, right? Let's go back to the Monday loop here. Again, we started, life happened, self-judgment, restart. This is a rinse and repeat method, but not a good rinse and repeat method. So life, we start, we're good. Let's do the diet and exercise, because I think everybody can just really just think that, knows what happens when life with diet and exercise. With diet and exercise, you're excited, you've researched, you've got it figured out, you've picked out all your stuff from the grocery store, you've got your recipes ready to go. Maybe it's Sunday night, you've pre-cut all your veggies and gotten them ready. You've got meals ready to go. You're excited. You've decided what days you're going to work out this week. Monday, you get up, you're good to go. Everything goes good. By Tuesday, you're feeling a little tired because you don't have as much sugar in your diet. So maybe you're a little tired and a little cranky, but not bad. You're still feeling good. Wednesday, you're starting to feel sore from the workout you did on Monday. Probably a little bit on Tuesday, but really by Wednesday, you're feeling sore. Today, because you're really sore, you're more cranky, you really want something sweet. But you're still you're muscling through, going to get through that Wednesday night workout. Thursday comes and it's Susie's birthday at work, and somebody brought a birthday cake. You did not anticipate this and you are not ready for it. You're now still a little sore from Monday's workout, but you're now sore from Wednesday's workout too. You haven't had sugar since Sunday, and that cake is there, and you're thinking, I'm not going to have any. And I think I'm just going to have a really small piece. I'm going to ask for a middle piece so there's not a lot of icing, right? Who's ever done that? I've done that. I know you've done that. We've all done that. Said if I have a piece with just a little tiny sliver from the middle with very little icing, we'll be good to go. So you eat that, and then you got your little tiny bit of a sugar rush, and you get through the rest of the day, and you go home, and you are cooking dinner, and you still, maybe you have some kind of sweet in the house that's your child's. Maybe you have some chocolate chips. I know that was a big one for me, to keep little chocolate chips in the house, and you decide to eat just a little handful, not a lot. And then that turns into you're eating popcorn, maybe some chips. You have an extra helping at dinner. So Friday morning, you wake up and you're mad at yourself because you've messed up again. You only made it through 4 days of diet and really 3.5 days of your diet and exercise. You messed up. That's it. That's final self-judgment. I'm a failure. I cannot do this. So either I have to start over or I'm just going to keep cheating. So you cheat the rest of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Guess what you're doing? What do you think you're doing on Sunday? Did you guess it? You are doing the same thing Sunday that you did the last Sunday. Because why? Because Sunday you started. You did really good. Thursday, you had some cake. Not a big deal. but you used it as a reason to judge yourself. And it's okay. That's not a negative or bad thing. This is what we've all been doing all our lives. Okay? And since you judged yourself and viewed yourself in a negative pattern, you gave yourself the story that you are a failure and you can't continue. You'll have to start over. So you restart. Is it not exhausting to start over and over again after we judge ourselves in such a negative way? It is exhausting to I'm not saying this happens every week, but let's just use a week as an example. It is exhausting to get myself so pumped up and excited for the week, for whatever it is I'm going to be doing, diet and exercise, or starting a new content plan, or going to a training for my full-time job or something else, and only be able to keep myself motivated until the middle of the week. And then something happens, like people deliver cake and you weren't expecting it. And you know what else? We get mad at the person bringing in the cake. Like they had the audacity to mess with our diet and exercise by bringing in this cake that we would definitely eat and become a failure. I just have to laugh at that because it's just what we do. And it's okay because we have to learn these things, right? And this is where, during all of this, we have to learn confidence, because confidence does not come first. Confidence comes after you stay. It's not confidence equals action. It's evidence equals confidence. Okay? Evidence equals confidence. I used to think that one day confidence would just appear. Woo! Looking back now, it's just kind of funny to think of that, right? But I used to think that confidence would just magically appear one day. Like I'd wake up and suddenly I'd be disciplined. The universe had sprinkled discipline and confidence down on me, and now life would be perfect. That is obviously not what happened. Confidence came because I survived enough interruptions without abandoning myself. Let me say that again for you, okay? Confidence will come because you survive enough interruptions without abandoning yourself. Every time you stay, you collect another receipt. And a receipt is evidence that builds confidence. This is where we say, talking again about weight loss. Weight loss is not linear. If we go into it thinking it's linear, we will not be successful. Okay? There are some times where you will lose a bunch of weight and then you'll sit at the same weight for 3 or 4 weeks. You might even gain a pound or 2 back, even if you are the most disciplined person. But then guess what? If you continue going, maybe you have to tweak a little bit, but not start over. You will start losing weight again. Building confidence, the evidence to building confidence is showing up anyway, even when it's not perfect. Speaking, doing it messy, like tonight. For some reason, I'm having an issue every once in a while. As you see, I think it was the burger I ate. I'm going to give that the excuse that maybe is making me want to burp up a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, or like content creation, just starting or going live. That is such a big one for so many people. They're so scared to go live because why? Because we want to compare ourselves going live to what we see on TV, to the professional speakers we see talking, to coaches we see talking, to influencers we see. Did they start that way? I guarantee you go back to their very first videos and they're going to be just like mine. Unless they did all of them behind the scenes, not live, so that we wouldn't see all that. And it's okay. I say show it. Let's see the messy middle so that people don't think they have to be perfect right from the start. Because if you think you have to be perfect right from the start, you will constantly be starting over because we can't be perfect. So every time you stay, you collect another receipt that says, I can trust myself. Not perfection, staying. That's what gives you trust. Because the biggest form of self-sabotage out there is restarting. Every time you restart, you stop trusting yourself. Every time you restart, you lose trust in yourself. Why? Because your brain says, this is where I'm meant to be. And if your brain wants to keep you safe, so your brain is perfectly content with starting over. But that's when you start telling yourself stories, and that's when you start losing trust, because you feel like you can only trust yourself when you're starting over, not when you are continuing. But this is where we come back to adapt, don't abandon. Adapt, don't abandon. I cannot, like I said, tell you how many times I've said that to myself in the last few weeks when I've been having such a hard time. It's just saying, Erin, adapt, don't abandon, which is where we are going to right now. Adapt, don't abandon. Give yourself permission to adapt. Okay? Here I am again, lost in my slides. I apologize. I thought I had a slide 11. Oh, I do. Okay. Take this back off the screen. Having a lot of fun tonight. Not sure how much of this I'm going to be able to use to recreate reels for you all. But we're just going to go with it. We're 30 minutes in already. All right. This really is becoming one of my favorite teaching ideas, is adapt, don't abandon, because of how it's three little words, but it's three little words that can get you through. You won't forget them because it's three little words. Adapt, don't abandon. If you can learn those three words, which it's, like I said, it's three words, and keep that in your brain toolbox, you can make it through. My old definition of a good thing was a perfect morning routine, perfect meals, perfect planner. I have a whole bunch of perfect planners that I used for a perfect week or two. I want a perfect week, perfect motivation. Hear that word there? Perfect, perfectionism. But guess what? If any one of those things disappeared, I had decided I had failed. And I'd procrastinate and wait and wait and wait. But consistency looks different than that. Some days consistency is writing one paragraph, walking maybe 10 minutes, or just refusing to tell myself I've ruined everything. Because it is so easy to talk down and negatively to ourselves. Do you know it takes 7 to 10 positive thoughts? For every positive thought we have 7 to 10 negative thoughts. That means we are behind from the start by 7-fold. So we have to learn things to put into our emotional toolbox to help us get through when those thoughts come up. Adapt, don't abandon works for so many of them. All right, I'm just moving stuff away that I'm already done with. Now, I was just talking about perfectionism. Look at there. Life does not require perfection. It requires flexibility. Wow. Again, life does not require perfection. It requires flexibility. This is so important. When I said earlier, my life is organized chaos. My life is not simple. Look like a planner filled out every day. This is done. And after 7 p.m., I journal and I finish up and decide what I'm going to do for the next day. And I sit down and read for 30 minutes. Stuff like that. No, that's not what happens. But I give myself the flexibility, not too much. You just have to learn what works best for you. Okay? So important to learn that. Let me ask you a question. Is there an area in your life this week that you are feeling like you need to be perfect in? But really, you just might need to be a little more flexible. Even if that's messy. Just to stop and think, what is something you this week could be a little more flexible with? We don't need to be rigid. Rigidity kind of goes hand in hand with perfectionism. Can't really be successful with either one. So let's talk about what pattern we're repeating. What pattern are we repeating? Instead of asking what is wrong with me, ask what pattern am I repeating? Patterns show awareness, choice, and hope. If you start to understand what pattern you are repeating, you can determine whether or not it's a pattern you want to continue or you need to replace, because not all patterns are positive, not all patterns are negative. But it's so important to determine what our patterns are. That requires awareness. And once you have awareness of the type of patterns you are doing, you can make the choice whether or not to continue them. And once you do that, you might have just a little bit of hope that you can stay and continue in your life and realize that you never had to start over to begin with. And remember, patterns can change. Now, I want to talk about something that I haven't talked about in, I don't know, a while. I brought it up in my early lives back in April. But one of my favorite analogies about starting over and why we do it is this. Think of it like you are playing maybe flag football, okay? And you're an 8-year-old kid. And you just got the ball and you are running down the field. Nobody has gotten your flag. Everyone's cheering, excited for you. And you are 2 yards from the touchdown. And you stop because you've never gotten a touchdown before. You've never been there. You don't know what happens when you do get there. You only know what happens when you start the play. So you just stop. Or maybe you run back. Now, I don't know any kids that have done that. I'm just using it as an analogy. Let me give you another analogy, okay? This one was my life. I took 9 years to get my bachelor's degree. 3 of them was because I needed to finish a paper, okay? It was for my senior, one of my senior seminar class. All I needed to do was complete the paper, turn it in, and get a grade better than, get a C or better, and I passed the class. I had already done all the work. I had already given a 20-minute presentation in the class when I was in the class and taken questions to be able to defend my findings, but I didn't write the paper. Now, I was very pregnant with my first child when I was in the class, and I was very pregnant with my third child right before I turned that paper in. But here's something that I learned. By not turning that paper in, I was staying in the cycle of where I was. And that cycle was being able to say, well, I don't have my degree yet, so I can't get a better job. If I have my degree, what will be my excuse for not having a better job? Now, I did turn that paper in like a week before I had my daughter, got a B on the paper, a B in the class, and got my degree. But here's the thing. I have never had a job in my field of history with an emphasis in medieval history. Now, I'm a great note taker. I'm a great researcher. I can do all that stuff wonderfully. But I've never had a job in my field. But that was an excuse I used, right? These are the stories we tell ourselves over and over again. So I want to say, like at the beginning, what if nothing is wrong with you? Because nothing is wrong with you. You have simply been responding to interruptions the same way for years, and patterns can change. I want you to know patterns can definitely change over time. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not failing. You are repeating a pattern. And once you realize that, you cannot unsee it. What if you've been trying to fix yourself all this time when all you really needed was a different story? Let me say that again. Okay? What if you have been trying to fix yourself all this time when all you needed was a different story? Mind-blowing. And guess what? It doesn't cost anything to create a different story. It doesn't cost anything to learn new behaviors. I mean, you can find everything on the internet now, pretty much. Now let's think about this. Let's move forward. Imagine yourself 1 year from today if you stopped starting over. Where would you be? I want you to really sit and think about that. If you stopped starting over, where would you be a year from today? Would you be consistently doing things, even if sometimes it was messy in the middle? Would you have peace? Would you trust yourself finally? Would you have freedom, whatever freedom is for you? And would you have created yourself a better identity? Doesn't mean you need a new one. Maybe you just need to build the one you have in a better way. For instance, I don't imagine a woman who never has hard weeks. Listen to this. Sometimes you're going to panic when you have hard weeks. That's not a reason to put yourself in a panic, judgmental mode where you think there are all kinds of things wrong with you. Sometimes we'll get home from vacation and make dinner instead of declaring the whole month has been ruined. A year from now, when you miss 3 workouts, are you going to think you need to start over? Or are you going to schedule a 4th one instead of quitting? Or is it, when you miss 3 workouts, is it going to be next week you start over again? And this is the pattern you've been doing every 2 weeks? Or are you just going to do the 4th one and realize life happened and you're going to learn to adapt, not abandon, get better, and get back on track? It's okay. Life happens. It's all how we work through it. Doesn't matter what we think, because life is going to happen. Life is going to life. Stay anyway. Stay anyway. It doesn't matter. If you start over, it's still going to life. It's not going to stop. All you're going to do is build a little bit of motivation that's the same every week and find yourself consistently in a pattern of starting over. And eventually, if you haven't yet, you'll start to not trust yourself anymore. And you may get to the point where you don't even start over. You just let yourself keep going and doing self-destructive patterns. I did that for years. I still do some every once in a while. I've only been living this since the beginning of the year and have learned so much more through it as I've continued to grow, because I was looking for something, for a way to help women based off things that have happened in my life and how much I feel like I've grown in the last 5 or 6 years. However, as I was thinking that, I was procrastinating, not just at that, but at job and everything else, putting things off. And I started to realize that I would put things off and then I would set a date to start them. Not start them right then or continue them once I realized I had stopped. I would just set a date to start. And sometimes that date got moved multiple times. And that's when this whole Monday loop came to me. And maybe it's not always every Monday, obviously, but it's a loop where you start, life happens, you judge yourself because life happened. It wasn't your fault. Life happens. But you judged yourself and you chose to start over and find yourself in the same position you're in the week before, the month before, whenever it was previously. You can stop starting over. You don't have to keep going, because life is going to life, no matter what you do. It is. It doesn't matter. It's gonna life. So I appreciate you being here to talk to me, with me tonight. As I go through the messy middle of this being my first masterclass and trying to figure out what the best way to do this is. Is it best for me to have all my stuff on the screen or in front of me? I ended up with many more papers than I needed, and I think that actually made it a little messy, but I chose to adapt, not abandon. When I started this, I was like, oh, let me go live on my page. I'm good to go. Let me open up my group. And then I went, oh, wait, I have to actually share it from my page to the group for it to be live. So for the first 3 to 4 minutes, it's kind of jumbled up. I might go in there and change all that, but we'll see. I'm not sure. But what I did, instead of stopping and restarting the live, I chose to adapt, not abandon, and continue, because I wanted you to see in a real time how this works. It's okay to be in the messy middle. And remember, every time you stay, you collect another receipt. So again, as we close out tonight, I want you to remember those 3 words: adapt, don't abandon. And I want you to picture yourself. That could be your homework. Picture yourself a year from now if you just kept going. So thanks so much for being with me this Saturday night. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. And I will plan to see you all Tuesday night. Bye.